Welcome to Botanical Trails Through the Juniper Forest. I'm your host, Brian Heater. Each week, I'll have a different guest join me to explore a pair of interesting gins. We'll chat a little bit about the gin and the distilleries, throw in a bit of trivia, hopefully laugh a bit, and then we'll go off the beaten path. Although I say that this is a podcast about gin, really this is just an excuse for me to spend time with my friends. But that'll just be our secret. Okay, let's start exploring.
Welcome to today's episode from the podcast formerly known as Botanical Trails Through the Juniper Forest. This podcast is under construction and has been temporarily improved and rebranded to today's episode, which is being brought to you by Toe Squished Grapes. I'm your co-host, Molly Murray.
And I'm Kelly Metzger.
You may recall us from episodes such as episode 4 and 5. And we are here today with our guest, Brian Heater. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, kids.
How you doing?
I'm great.
Good. Well, I'd say thank you for having us. I mean, we're still using your space and equipment.
Yeah.
So.
And everything. Basically the title of the podcast. It's like a
Or
podcast
he should be
takeover.
thanking us for having him.
Yeah, okay, do that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
It's great to have you here. Thanks
Yes.
for making time and space.
My pleasure.
Yes. What do you think about the name of the new podcast? Toe Squished Grapes.
It's not bad.
No? I like it. I think it's good, and it makes me think of,
It makes it sound like homemade wine.
this is homemade
Which is
wine.
what we're going to be drinking.
We'll be
is it?
drinking
Yeah, we washed
homemade-
our feet ahead of time, so don't worry.
Wait, you did?
But then we should be styling.
Okay. All right. Well, during this episode, we are doing a bit of a takeover and going to try a few different red wines. So we started with a cab takeover, and it's kind of evolved just into a couple different things. So I'll get us kicked off because I've had this glass of wine in front of me for like 10 minutes now while we've been preparing, and I've almost drank it a lot. Like I almost need a refill, but I didn't try it yet.
It's pretty good self-control on your end.
Yeah, so let's start it, and then I'll tell you about it. Let's try. This is a Cabernet Sauvignon. Did I say that right?
Well, sure. I like the French accent.
Yeah. Okay, I like it, but you're not a fan of cabs, Kelly, right? Usually.
Well, here's something that's really interesting that I think we need to spend a couple minutes talking about. So, I'm not necessarily not a fan of Cabernet.
Okay.
I'm not in love with California Cabernets. And so one of the things I think is really cool about wine that many people don't think about or learn wine in this way is that if you can learn one thing about wine, it's figure out which region
You like.
you like versus the varietal or the grape that you like. Because a Cabernet from California is going to be very different than a Cabernet that you get from South America, Italy, South Africa, because the grape is grown around the world. But where it's grown influences what it tastes like. So I won't say that I don't like Cabernet. California Cabernets are not my preference. Not that they're bad, because the cool thing about wine is it's so subjective. It's really about what you like. So it's more about the region for me than the actual grape.
I'm more of an equal opportunist, like with wine. So as long as it's not too dry, not too sweet, I'm right in there.
So have you found there are regions that have cabs that you enjoy?
Yes. However,
It's
it's
gonna be a long
usually
podcast.
more of a blend. No, I'm not going to get all nerdy and
Yes,
weird on
okay.
you on this one. But I do think it's important for people that don't know a lot about wine or are thinking or are intimidated by wine. Because some people are super intimidated and they're like, oh, it's fancy or I don't know or it's snobby and I can never drink it. And it's like, well, you can learn about like a region you like. If you know you like California cabs, any restaurant you go to, hey, I love California Cabernets, even if they don't have one on the list, which in West Michigan they 1,000% do, they can guide you or steer you towards something that will be similar. So Cabernet is usually not one of my top, but it's not something I dislike.
All right.
Excellent.
Can I have the bottle over there?
Yeah, sure.
You're hoarding it, Brian. So this is the wine that we are tasting, and I cheated. Like I'm going to read it right off the bottle in terms of the research.
How's that cheating?
Well, okay. So I've been with Brian a few times at a coffee shop where I'm working on something personal in my life I'm working on, and I've seen you preparing for these, and you put a lot of time into your podcast and the gin and the region where it's from and having a theme. You do a lot of prep. So I'm reading off the wine bottle. But to be fair, I did look at the website, and it was exactly what was off the wine bottle. So I was like, I'll just read that. So this is a brand that I haven't heard from before, a vintner called Lindemans. Have you ever heard of that? Lindemans?
I've heard of Linden,
Yes.
but not as a winery. Like it's...
Like the chocolate?
Oh, is that maybe? Maybe.
I don't know. Okay, so Lindemans is what it is. It has an old guy from the 1800s. It was established in 1843, and I liked it because it's from the Gentleman's Collection, and I thought that sounded very
Country
aristocratic,
clubby.
maybe.
Yeah, the complete opposite of us.
And so then I read, the rest of the label of why it's a gentleman's collection, and it says that, let me read you a little bit about Dr. Henry Lindemann. This is why I had to read it. I can't make this up or summarize it because it's so good. Dr. Henry Lindemann, an upstanding man of formidable character, started his own winery. In doing so, he set his sights on civilizing a hard-drinking colony nation onto more gentlemanly pursuits, such as the enjoyment of a fine drop. So that's kind of the description, and on the front, the little tagline says, "A gentleman can make a perfectly emphatic point without the use of profane language. This is not to say he is not versed in profanity, but he frequently has something better to say." And I thought that was hysterical, because if we know the good old-fashioned swear, it's Brian Heater. And I thought you would appreciate this, and that maybe this could help you grow in your...
And become more sophisticated.
Yes.
I'll do my best.
Okay, so I hope it's working.
Can I try a little more?
You're not empty yet.
Well, it was right there.
Okay, so do you like it?
Yes. So, based on Kelly's initial comments, what region does this come from?
This is a California.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess if I was actually paying attention at the beginning of the podcast, I would have known that.
And it doesn't tell me, what part of California. I assume it's Napa, but that's just probably a very stereotypical answer. But it says California. So, it's and I think it's a fun bottle, and it was a fun kind of description, which I like, versus just a plain old, label.
So had you tried that one before?
No, this is the first time.
You just, snagged it and...
Yeah, I almost tried it the 10 minutes while we were preparing several times, but... No,
you showed great restraint.
Thank you. That is not... I'm a pretty impulsive person, so... So do you like it, Kelly?
I think for me, for a California Cabernet, it is decent.
Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take that as a win.
That sounds like a win.
Here's the thing for me. Well, first of all, I love the label because, if you listen to the ever famous episode 5 of Botanical Trails, I talked a lot about the labels of the gin, which sometimes you do just have to pick a bottle based on the label.
Yeah.
I do love the label. For me, this one is good. It's got a good drier finish. The thing that I don't always love about California Cabernets is the big, ripe, juicy, fruity fruit that's kind of up front. And it sometimes can be a little bit too much for me. And in my palate, it tastes too sweet.
Okay. Do you like oaky wines? Things that say they've been aged in oak and they taste oaky?
Yeah, sometimes.
I'm not a fan.
No? Okay.
If it says it's been aged in oak, I'm like, no thanks, I'm good. So,
well, that might be a big difference because there are a lot of wines that are barrel aged in oak.
Yeah. Okay, so that's fair. So one thing I was disappointed, though, was on the back, and as I was doing my limited research on this, one says living wine labels, and so you can download this app and watch the wine label come to life. And you may have seen this or heard of this from 19 Crimes. And so you hold your phone up to it, and Snoop Dogg starts
Isn't that Snoop's
talking.
wine?
Yeah, and it's pretty funny, right? And interactive, and for a middle of the road, wasn't the cheapest, wasn't the most expensive, just kind of a middle of the road wine. That's a fun thing to experience. So I downloaded the app, and then I tried to do it, and it said that they stopped doing it for these wines. So 19 Crimes, I think you can still do it, but not for the Gentleman's Collection. They've...
Too much swearing?
Yeah, probably. Although Snoop Dogg, I don't know if he swears in his labels, but it wouldn't surprise me. So I was kind of sad that we couldn't do that, but...
So what do you taste in the wine? Because that's always something important to talk about, what you taste, why you like it, or why you don't like it. And there's really no wrong answer.
Well, there's some wrong answers, just so you know.
Yeah, you can go first.
Well, I taste...
How would
glances at the bottle. I taste grapes.
how would you describe it to someone that might enjoy something like this and say, why do you like it?
So I would say, I don't know that I can, it tastes kind of fruity to me, like, but not too sweet. And I would say, with very limited knowledge, Kelly's clearly the most.
By far.
Okay, pause. Kelly brought a book today that's called Wine for Normal People, and I would argue that that's not something that normal people have.
Which, side note, and I wish there was maybe commission for this from the 3 people that listen that will buy this book after this podcast, but there is a book called Wine for Normal People, and it's actually also a podcast, and I found the podcast first and then bought the book. And it's Elizabeth Schneider, and she's a certified somm, which is a wine expert.
Say the whole word, though.
Sommelier, which is or sommelier.
I would say sommelier, but that's...
Sommelier, I think, is like the French way that you're really supposed to say it, but my French is terrible. So that's Kelly's interpretation of how you say it. But anyhow, so she's someone that feels really passionately about breaking it down so that wine is not intimidating for people when you get asked a question like, well, what do you taste? Or like, how do I find a wine that I might like? Or go to the wine shop and say, I need a nice bottle of wine for a fancy dinner that I'm having with my significant other. I don't even know where to start, right? So it makes it very accessible for people. I mean, I think especially younger people that are intimidated by it because they buy canned cocktails now.
Is it an easy read? Like,
super easy. Like pretty... You don't have to read it cover to cover either. You can kind of bounce around.
Yours looks pretty worn, though.
Well,
did it go to Italy with you?
It did not.
Oh, okay.
But I do reference it.
Okay, I like that. So to go back to what you asked, I don't know that I could pull out like a specific flavor other than delicious, but 10 out of 10 would drink again. But I will say, like, if somebody, I would say that it's kind of a medium body. I don't feel like it's a super, like, thick, heavy wine, and I don't feel like it's light, like a Zin. You know what I mean? So I would say it's the perfect kind of weight, which sounds probably like a dumb way to say it, but like for me to be like, it's not too heavy, it's kind of right in the middle of the road, which I like.
Yeah, a little on the dry side maybe for a cab that we normally try.
Yeah,
I would say.
Well, see, what you don't know, Molly, is that you really just described the mouthfeel of
the mouthfeel.
And that's like a thing. That's a thing, but you just described it because you're like, it's not too heavy, it's not too light. And that's important for some people because some people like it to be really light and kind of not sort of full in the mouth, and others like it the other way around. And then...
Now, it doesn't have a lot of legs, which are when you swirl the glass and it leaves behind. Is that right, Kelly? Like that's what
those
my
are
interpretation
legs.
is. Those are the legs.
Yep.
She's making me doubt myself. And so, like, there's not a lot of that, but it tastes better than it smells. But that could be your glass.
I didn't wash it.
Did you wash it? Oh, okay. But I like it. I think it's delicious.
Yes, I would definitely have it again. I'm not really good at like picking out specific flavors. I mean, as you guys know, I struggle just with fruits and vegetables in general.
Yeah, you ask him to call out what he tastes in this. What kind of fruits?
What?
Rutabaga?
Grape?
What was the one that rhubarb? That's different from rutabaga. It's like a potato, right?
Oh, right. You're asking me,
Kelly. You're a cooker.
I think that the next podcast is going to be an identification of fruits and vegetables with Brian and Molly.
Love that. Hey, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, she'll demolish me.
Yeah, on things like clementines and
grapefruit
and grapefruits.
Fuji apples.
Mm-hmm. So I like this. I think that it's pretty good.
No, I like it as well. So
one thing I appreciated about the cover and talking about language and swearing, and that made me kind of reflect on sometimes when maybe, I am a bit of a swearer, I think, and my children have adopted that as well, one in particular, but it made me go, okay, what are some times when maybe I got busted, like, not, like, shouldn't have been swearing? So curious if you have a time that stands out in your mind. I have one, but I'd like our guest to go first if you have one.
Well, you had mentioned that you were going to ask this question, so I actually have 2 short stories I would tell around this. So one is the question you had said you were going to ask in the text earlier today was, when was like the most inappropriate time that you think you swore? So I tried to go back and I was like, okay, what was a pretty inappropriate thing? And actually for me, I would say it was like the last few months I was working.
Oh.
It was just it was like a 3-person meeting. So it was me, myself, Angie, who was my manager.
And previous guest.
Yes. And then TJ Scott, who was taking over talent acquisition because I was on my way out. And I won't go into everything, but...
But you had nothing to lose at that point, right?
Yeah, but yes. And I was staying a little longer to help talent acquisition kind of move through this transition. But they were just talking about hiring back a ton of people and going out and using outside agencies, which is something we had stopped doing. Mm-hmm. And in that meeting, all of a sudden, I sort of just lost it. And
didn't hold back.
Nope. I started letting F-bombs fly. And then as I was watching Angie's face, she was like, oh my God, he's having a meltdown. And I just kind of completely vented and I got over it. But I remember thinking at the end, I was like, yep, this is why I'm taking VSP. Like, I cannot...
Need a little break.
Yeah, this is not how I want to. So that was, for me, the most inappropriate time. Like, that was completely unprofessional, even though Angie's not, I mean, it's, but I mean, I should, and I told her, I'm like, I am not yelling at you, but I am so frustrated in this
situation. But I'm not yelling at you either.
It wasn't.
I wish I could have been a fly on the wall in that meeting, because if you don't know Brian at work, or former Brian at work, he was very PC and buttoned up and very professional. So to see that would have been amazing.
Yeah, Brian has 2 personalities. He has work Brian and not work Brian. And you even distinguished that, I think, by getting home and taking off your watch, and then you turned into non-work Brian,
just
right?
Brian, yeah.
Just plain Brian.
Just regular Brian.
Plain Brian, right.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting when because you and I supported you for a while through when you were recruiting and hiring and got to know you, and you were a very buttoned up person. And then after maybe, I don't know, a year, you go to happy hours with work people, and I started getting to know you a little bit better. And then, I discovered that not work Brian is a big swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good, like, stress reliever. It's healthy. My mom let us swear when I was a kid.
Really?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yep. Like that.
Lori was the biggest swearer, though.
No, for sure. It was me.
It was you?
Yeah, for sure. Lori,
you told
not
me
at
Lori
all.
was a troublemaker, though, right?
Right, but that was pure violence.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And then Amy would have been, like, second. So, and then my other just quick swear story is, although I do love to swear, I am very good, as you know, because you worked with me, like, I can turn it off.
Compartmentalize.
Just like, I can just be like, oh, this is not the proper thing. Like, I always try to make sure I don't swear around, like, kids and stuff. So, growing up, my Aunt Dee was not a fan of swearing. Like, she would have always been, that's uncouth.
Oh.
I
feel like they should have put something like, this bottle of wine is not uncouth. Like, would you say it's couth? I don't feel like that's right. Okay.
So, occasionally for Lent, I would give up swearing.
Wow.
But I would never tell her, because then she would know I actually swear, because I never swore around Dee. So it was either like the end of college or a couple years after college, and it was my first wife, Christy, and we were just over visiting Dee, and somehow Lent came up.
And what you were giving up?
And Chris goes, yeah, he gave up swearing. And Dee looked at me like I just stabbed the Pope in the heart. And she was like, you swear? And I was like, fuck no, Dee, I do not. But I was just like, not much. When I
just sometimes.
Like a ton.
But was your mom there? Was she like,
no, Mom was not there.
Because she knew then.
Oh, Mom knew. Yeah, Mom knew I swore, but she also knew I'd never swore in front of Dee.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of like getting called out on the carpet completely accidentally.
Yeah.
And just being like, sorry.
Okay, oops, sorry. Well, just once it happened.
So those are my 2 curse stories.
That's amazing.
Kelly, you're not a big swearer, are you?
It depends on the situation.
I don't feel like you are.
Brian can turn it off and on.
You don't have that?
I do have that. I also do not swear in a professional setting.
Yeah.
On purpose. It has slipped a few times, but very PC, like very like mild swear words.
Like, this is a bunch of bullshittery. It's like, but like that, like very nicely.
No, it'll be, and always in a small group of people that I somewhat trust. And then, to be honest, I feel really weird after. Like, I'll say something like, it's just total shit. Like, I can't believe, and then I'm like, oh, why did I say that? I shouldn't say that at work. So I too am very very buttoned up about it. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So I don't swear a ton, but when I do, I will drop some F-bombs. Like, that would be my word. I don't know that I have, like, good stories, like Brian, about where I've inappropriately cursed.
Do you let your kids swear?
No, but they will ask permission. Like, can I say? And I will say, well, why? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead.
Say it, yes.
Just go ahead. The big one that is, like, normal for me to say, or almost, like, automatic, is, oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say that a bunch, and I've said that in a school setting before, not even realizing it. And my kids were like, Mom, what are you doing? You can't say that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't even realize I said that. Yeah, oh, shit, I can't. Oh, shit. And then it's just like spirals
so
out of control,
out of it.
right?
Exactly.
So the best part was I say that so often about things. Like, if I drop something, you stub your toe, it's just my natural response. That my oldest son, when he was quite young, was one of the first phrases that he said.
Oh, but it was used appropriately?
It was absolutely. If my children are going to swear, it
smart.
is appropriately placed in a sentence.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And I would say mine are too. Mine, and really Declan is my only swear, and he's...
I would have put money on him.
Oh, yeah. But he is, and it started off with really just, he's a big gamer, like Mom and Dad are. He's my biggest game player. And so he used it when, and let me tell you, they weren't very family friendly. He went, like, full on for it. But, like, it was appropriate, you know, in the moment. And so he definitely is... You know, but we kind of say, look, you have to know the difference between swearing at home and swearing outside of home. And obviously, if your friends are around, like, tone it down a little. And then Declan's actually swung too far, and it just loses its impact. And we're like, stop, like, just take a break a little bit. But this isn't technically swearing, it's a gesture. But when I was in Florida, we were visiting Nathan, my husband, Nathan's dad, and he loved these old cars and trucks. And we drove I was driving this very old truck, like, it was classic, and it was great. So we're driving along around, you know, Florida, and lots of left turns, right turn, going around. And so I'm getting a left turn lane, but there was 2 left turn lanes, and I was on the inside left turn lane, and there was somebody who was on the outside left turn lane. So we're both turning left, and this other car went into my lane. Like, maybe they didn't realize that I was also going. And so they went into mine, and I am driving this very classic, immaculately put together classic car. And then I was like, what is happening? And I was swearing. And then I don't know what possessed me, but I stuck out right across the dashboard, my middle finger, right as this little girl popped her head up from outside the car in front of me. She couldn't have been more than 6, but it was like one of those old, what are they, like, the wagons, station wagons that somebody was like in
the family truckster.
Yeah, but like I couldn't see her at first, and all of a sudden she, like, you know, popped her head up, and I am full on flipping her off, and I was like, okay, maybe we shouldn't flip people off in traffic anymore. Like,
well, that'll teach her for being a backseat driver, having her mom pull out.
That's true. She was like, go ahead, just pull in front of the nice lady with the really nice classic truck. So I still feel a little sick about that one, because that
who taught you to swear? Was it something you just kind of picked up from friends and family?
Well, I'm the baby, so I have brothers, and my sister's a little more like older than me. She was out of the house by the time I started swearing. But my 2 brothers, they taught me, and they were the ones who were responsible for teaching me the middle finger. And my grandmother was a British nanny for movie stars. And so one year when I was 8, I took my very first plane trip by myself. By the way, my first plane ride was by myself. My dad walked onto the plane, got me all set, something you could never do now. I fly out to California. Side note, he forgot my luggage, had no luggage. Okay. My grandma picks me up, and throughout the week, we are going to her charges house, right, to go babysit. And her charges, that's what they call them, right? Your charge. Yeah. So well, she was British too, so I'm sure she said that. And the actor was now it's going to escape me. His name is it'll come to me in a second, but he was in that movie Tombstone. He was the bad guy with the aces on his, it's like Powers Booth is what his name is.
Oh, yep.
Okay, so so he had a couple of the daughter and a son, and the daughter was a couple years younger than me, and we were swimming one day, and I told her, hey, have you ever done this before? Gave, the finger, this is what it means, and like, we were very conspiratorial. Well, then she gave that finger to her swim teacher, and boy, I got a lecture bad from my British grandmother, who was not happy.
Was it over tea?
It was not over tea. She wouldn't let me have tea that day. So that's my claim to fame, is that I taught Paris Booth, who was also in, she's an actress. I taught her how to give the middle finger.
She became an actress?
Yeah, she was in a movie, I think it was called like Las Vegas or Leaving Las Vegas. She was in a brothel. It was like a TV series on like AMC or something.
I feel like I just learned a lot about you.
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot. You may not know this about me, but I talk a lot.
That's not new.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the reasons why
I learned from the boys from Barber Hall in the back of the bus. Bus number 17.
Oh.
Yeah. Barber Hall was like almost like a military academy sort. It was actually sort of like, I think, for all the kids who got kicked out of the other private and public schools in the greater Kalamazoo area. And Barber Hall, and they were just, not to disparage anyone from Barber Hall who might be listening, but they were sort of just basically hooligans. But I sat in the back with them as a young kid.
You think that one of your 3 listeners is from Barber Hall? So we have your mom.
No, I'm like at. I'm like at 4 or 5 now.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, and I'm always impressed with your memory for detail. Always astounds me. How would you even remember it was bus 17?
Because that was my bus.
But I have no such knowledge of any. You really do have an astonishing memory of detail.
I rode a bus as well, and I could not tell you if $1 million was on the table.
I couldn't tell
what
you
the number was.
All of them were, but I think like Jim's bus was 81.
Okay,
that's even more.
Yeah.
But we had the same
incredible.
bus number like for years. Like we didn't like. Yeah. I don't know. Times were different back then. We didn't have a bunch of like social media and jazz. We just had to remember
distractions. You mean?
Yeah, we just had to remember stuff. It's the only way we could survive.
All right. Well, let's take a short break. And speaking of Barbara, that's actually a really good segue to our next wine.
Great.
So
Wait,
we'll
who's
pause
Barbara?
here. Well, you'll find out.
Why did you say speaking of Barbara?
You have to wait and see.
Okay. Did someone say Barbara?
You did. You said Barbara Hall.
Barber Hall. Barbara Hall. Not Barbara.
No, I thought you were saying Barbara Hall.
No, there wasn't a lady named Barbara Hall who funded this.
I don't know. Maybe it was a rich Barbara. Okay, so Barber Hall, that's actually
Hall.
better because it's actually closer to what we'll be drinking after this.
Welcome back. All right, we are ready for our second wine, which I debated on what to share with you guys, knowing that you're both California cab lovers. I wanted to introduce you to something that is what I would consider like an everyday wine, a very easy wine to find at a reasonable price, and something that I think is good with a lot of different food, but also can be drank on its own. And it's different. I don't know if you've ever had it. So our next wine that we're going to try is, we're going to hop the pond, head over to Italy.
Yes.
And we are going to try a Barbera.
Like Barbara or Barber?
Like Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah. Barbera. Okay, smell it first. I know you're still going, but...
Villa Sparina is the house or the vinter, and it's from Monferrato, Italy.
Okay, so before we taste it...
Monferrato, do you know what part of Italy that is, just out of curiosity? And if
you want me to
okay.
pull the map up?
Just like, is it north, south,
it's
middle?
Piemonte, which is northern Italy.
Okay.
So the Piedmont region, which is actually a region where I like a lot of wines from the Piedmont region.
And I'm sort of sure the gins we did in episode 2, the Italian gins, I think we're both sort of also from that area.
I believe you're correct.
So what do you think of the smell?
I don't...
Oh, look, you guys have improved from
even episode
part 1.
Part 1?
Yeah. You mean we just...
Are there legs? There's no legs. A little bit.
I
feel like it's a more pungent smell.
Really?
It smells more acidic to me.
I don't smell.
So the winemaker's notes, I'm going to read this.
Okay.
While you
read
guys,
it and we'll try it.
Yeah, while you guys are drinking, it has a deep red ruby color coming from perfectly ripened grapes, a delicate nose, wide and deep, with a note of black cherry, mint, pepper, and vanilla. An elegant palate, soft, full, and rich, with a long, fruity aftertaste.
I like it.
So I said, oh, mint, and he said, oh, vanilla. Yeah.
Immediately, I heard that, actually. You were thinking that. You were like, I feel vanilla. So,
no, I only said it
this.
because you read it. But, oh, that's a fancy thing to do.
I know, I was trying to slurp it. Do you think the microphone picked that up?
Yep.
1,000%.
But this one is very
I like it. This one is
So
like,
I'll say this one's like outside my comfort zone. Like I don't know that I would buy it, but I do like it. I'm kind of...
I like this one more.
You do?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, it's like smoother.
Well, I know which one I'm taking home then. I'm taking mine.
That's not going to make it out of this room.
Yeah.
What we're talking about. No, I would choose this one.
Really?
Yeah, I would. Yep.
Huh. That's so interesting because since I'm not much of a cocktail drinker, I do vodka once in a while. The only reason I've ever drank gin in my life is because I've either been at your house here watching the Chiefs game or, the podcast. And so I'm not a big cocktail drinker. So sometimes, Brian will join me in a bottle of wine and we go for California cabs.
We do.
It is like Coppola's all the way. And so this is like a bit of a stretch, but I do like it. Do you find that using a decanter and like airing it out really makes a difference or no? Because you've been talking about water in your gins or
that's just to like taste it, to like bring out the botanicals.
But like that's what I think air does, right? When it's
Yes, air will change the flavor profile of a wine over time.
Yeah.
Some wines do need to be in a decanter or aerated for a certain amount of time to have kind of their best flavor profile. Yeah. And sometimes you can do that just by opening the bottle, right? And leaving the bottle open without the cork in it for whatever time. Like if you don't have a decanter. You can also you don't necessarily need a fancy decanter. We use like a carafe, just a juice carafe, and we dump the bottle in there.
To get it going.
And it gets it going, and then the mouth of the not decanter, what I just said, carafe.
Yeah.
Is that also a French word? I told you my French was terrible.
Did you eat it with a croissant?
With a croissant?
But you didn't take French in high school, right?
Absolutely not. I know zero French. Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So anyhow, so you can do that, and then it allows more air to get in that. So what's interesting is, have you ever noticed, which I know doesn't sometimes happen, but if you open a bottle of wine and you don't finish it that day and you go back to it the next day, it tastes different than...
Is that a thing
the first day? It is a thing people do sometimes, not regularly.
Okay, I was gonna say. So you said it tastes different because it will taste different because of yes. Okay.
Yes.
So let's just look at the label too here. Villa Sparina. Via Sparina.
Yeah, that is the house. What they call the house or the winemaker.
Is this a blend or just like normal? Not normal, but like a straight just.
This one is 100% Barbera.
Okay,
so that's
which is the grape
of wine.
Which is the grape.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Just like Cabernet Sauvignon is the grape.
Okay.
The region is Piedmont, so it's from the Piemonte region in Italy. So even if you said, I'm looking for something else in that region, I want to see a different grape and how that's different, there would be some similarities because of where it's grown. But you could also look and say, I'd love a Barbera from that region, which a lot of it is grown in that region. It'd be relatively similar to what you taste here. Similar to like this versus a Coppola versus
Why don't you just walk into a place and be like, I want that second wine from episode 16 of Botanical Trails. And if they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like,
get out of here. Now, and so... The difference, though, in the labels is kind of funny because this is obviously like a more mine. We'll say the one that I brought, the Gentleman's Collection, is a more cheeky, fun label.
It looks like something from they were selling back in the 20s.
Yeah, right, or the 1840s.
Yeah,
really
exactly,
is what it is.
Yes,
but Kelly's, and you'll see. I think you'll probably take a picture, Brian, right, of the bottles, and so you'll see the label is very simple, sparse. Yeah,
plain.
Simple, yeah. But the wine seems more complicated to me than this one does, than the other one does.
Oh,
potentially.
See, I'm not good at that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know, but I would.
If you listen to episode 5, Brian called me his classy friend, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh yeah,
and
for
so
sure. 1000%.
I do think though the wines that we each brought speak to.
By the way, you've only reinforced what I've said during
our
personality.
1000%.
Yeah.
You brought a book that reinforced that in about 5 seconds.
I don't know, it's dry.
Yeah, it's red. What's more purple?
Yeah. What do you taste? Grapes?
I am here to educate the listeners today.
It's so good.
Actually, I'm more here to educate you guys because I saw a window of opportunity to say...
to try to make us more classy.
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce you to something that's easy to find in most wine stores, even if they only have one, and you can get a really decent bottle of Barbera for $20. Yeah. 15.
And I feel like if you ask for a Barbera versus a cab, you sound a lot more sophisticated. That's not a common, I feel like. It goes like Merlot, cab, Zin. Nobody asked for a Barbera except for Kelly.
Well, the funny thing is, if you were to go in and ask for a Bordeaux, that's usually like a Merlot dominated or cab dominated crazy blend.
Yeah.
And you could do like 13,000 episodes on that.
Yeah.
But so that's why I talk so much about like the importance of learning the regions that you like, because it influences so much the flavor profile and what you're tasting in the wine.
Yeah.
So can we ask where you snagged that bottle?
The
Curious
one
minds want to know.
and
right
only
here.
place, well, I shouldn't say the one and only place. The primary place that I purchase wine is at Martha's Vineyard.
Oh.
Perfect. Easy peasy.
So I went to the new place that is off of Northland Drive, or I don't know when it turns into Northland, but Northland and
Plainfield?
it's a new one. It's not Plainfield, but it's just past Plainfield.
Well,
it's Rest River Drive. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so there's a new one right there that looks like a Total Wine, and but I don't think it's called that. But I walked in and it's like, it was very nice.
No.
Last night I was like, oh,
Good to know.
I know it was right on my way home.
Yeah, there's a Total Wine coming on to the west side, which is sort of nice. So
one more quick thing about this wine. If you ever decide to purchase a Barbera in the future, it goes
down easy.
Yes. And it goes phenomenally well with pizza.
All right.
Oh,
There we go.
all right.
Okay, so now I have like a very random fun fact that's unplanned.
Okay.
But I just saw this in my little notes here, and it's perfect. So, Barbera is thought to have originated in the 7th century, a full 1,000 years before Cabernet Sauvignon.
Wow. Wow. See, she's classy. Mm-hmm. I only like the trendy wines, apparently. Okay, to be clear, disclaimer, I usually drink my wine from a box, so I'm more economically based in my wines than, regions of grapes, but I do appreciate a good one, especially when Kelly buys it. It's good.
Hey,
No, I enjoy
it all
this.
goes back
It's
to
good.
what you prefer.
And can we just say the difference in obtaining these two wines? I had to go to the store because I buy wine and then I drink it all. And so I went and I perused, and I looked, and I found what I needed, and I got it. Kelly perused her wine collection, and she had to make a decision based on the different wines that she has, because she is more of a hoarder, we'll say, in terms of, or I guess a collector is the nice way to say it. But I
Collect sounds better than
you do sound like a wine
We do drink
collector. Yeah, okay, that's fair.
We do collect some wine. Yes, you're right about that. And it's not a common thing for many people from what I know, right? Yeah. Many people in the U.S. Our culture is more buy what you need to drink right now and then go back to the store to buy.
I can see that. But the people in Italy are like cases upon cases and cellars and.
So, I know you've gotten into wine the past couple of years, Kel. Based on what you talked about in segment 1, what have you found to be your favorite region? Like, where do you like to get your wines from?
Northern Italy is a region in which I have yet to find something I don't like.
I heard that Piedmont is in the northern region.
You're learning. I'm so proud of you.
Nice work.
There is a pop quiz at the end.
Oh.
Just kidding.
Okay. No, I do like it. It's just not my normal, but it's kind of fun to do something that's not, right? Something outside my comfort zone.
So why do you like that one better than this one, just out of curiosity?
The first one?
Yes.
It's probably just because that's what I'm used to. Like, even if I can down a bottle, it's a Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think this is a good time for trivia. This is good, because it's going to take a little partnership. So, between you two, because I came up with a trivia.
Oh, I was like, partnership with who? Because there's 3 of us.
I know, you two.
Totally lean in.
Well, so I was like, how do we... Yeah, you are definitely going to have to phone a friend. Maybe you let him take a stab, but then you're going to have to correct him.
Absolutely.
So. Okay, so... I'm going to give you 5 wines, and I want you to put them in order of lightest to heaviest. I feel like Kel will be good at this one. Okay. All right, so your 5 wines, I should have written this down for you, are Pinot Noir,
okay,
a Barbera, a Merlot, a Malbec, and a Cab Sauv.
Okay.
I should have written that down.
I will actually let you.
So it's a Pinot Noir,
So I texted it to myself. So I'll let Brian look at mine, and then
Pinot Noir.
Is the answer on there?
No.
No. If it is, I'm not going to look.
So what is the
Pinot
lightest
Noir,
to the heaviest?
Barbera, Merlot, Malbec, for a cab.
So this is Molly pouring the first wine.
So how about I'll take a stab and then
this is
Hallie can
a
correct
tricky
all
one.
of my answers.
I don't know. I might not get it right.
Okay, what's your instincts, Brian?
Okay.
I'm sure that Angie, too, who is one of your guests, is probably yelling the answers because she's a bit of a wine connoisseur.
No, for sure, yeah. Especially with her her husband's job and everything. Yeah, they're great at like going over their house for wine tastings and stuff. Right. Yeah, they're awesome. So, okay, if I had to take a stab...
Like, what's the lightest out of those 5?
I'm going to say Barbera.
You've talked to Kelly about it.
Would you say Barbera or Cab?
I would not. Wait, are you going lightest to heaviest?
I'm going to go lightest to heaviest.
Yeah,
you think this is lighter than the other things?
I don't know. I'm not good at this stuff.
It's really
okay, let's go heavier to lighter. Okay. Would you say heaviest is Pinot Noir or Merlot? Heaviest? Now we're going the other way. Or do you want to go which way?
You are very much confusing me as I'm writing down my notes here, trying to even keep up with the conversation. Start with the lightest.
Lightest?
What do we think is the lightest?
What do you think is lightest?
I think Pinot.
Oh. You know what? You should just do this. Because I'm not... Because I would have gone the complete...
But it depends on where the Pinot is, because if it's a Washington Pinot, which I also think you would really enjoy, Miles.
Washington State Pinot?
Yes.
I'm going there in a couple weeks.
You should 1,000% drink a Washington State, like Willamette Valley Pinot Noir.
Okay, I'm going to write that down.
It is very different than a Pinot Noir from a different, like a part in California or whatever. It's very different. So
is Merlot the heaviest?
No, I actually think Malbec is the heaviest.
I think Malbec is the
heaviest. I think Malbec is. Because all I can think about is an Argentinian Malbec, which is like, if you eat that with like a rich, hearty steak, it's like a lot and it's delicious.
Okay, so you talked it through a little bit. Kelly, what's your final determination?
Well, Brian didn't even give a final
determination. He was...
Okay, I'll go for Kelly stuff.
Just spitball.
Sure. Pinot Noir...
Is what?
We're going lightest to heaviest.
Lightest.
Okay. Kel?
Cab, Barbera, Merlot, Malbec. That would be my guess.
First, I'm impressed that you remembered those without looking at the list.
So much. Well, this is why he remembers he was on bus 17, and I can't remember my phone number as a kid.
Yes, that's
so.
Fair.
Anyhow, this though I could be way off because everyone always has more to learn about wine. But my thought today would be Pinot, Merlot, Barbera, Cab, Malbec.
So you were close, Kel. It is a Pinot Noir is the lightest, which I was surprised because I was with you that I thought, I always think Pinots are very heavy Pinot Noirs, but they're actually like one of the lightest. Like it goes Zinfandel, then a few things, and then a Pinot Noir, and I was like,
so is that like the outside of a rosé? Is that considered like the lightest red then?
It's pretty light. Hold on. I don't know about the lightest. I have a picture I can show you. So Pinot Noir. Then the Barbera, which is what you're drinking now. Then the Merlot, which is interesting. Switched. Okay, so they were literally, there was probably 30 different things, and I picked like 5 of the ones that you and I would recognize, Brian. I'm sure that Kelly would recognize.
And she only threw Barbera in there because she knew we were drinking it.
That's exactly right. So the Barbera and the Merlot, though, were like right next to each other. So it makes sense that you got them back. So it goes Pinot Noir, Barbera, Merlot, Malbec, and then the Cab.
Oh, okay.
And what surprises me
is... the Cab is the heaviest?
Yes.
No effing way.
No, it's what it says.
Where'd you get
Not like the heaviest ever. It was the heavy out of these 5.
I get that. That makes sense. Are Cab and Malbec kind of close, though?
Yes.
I think in some regards they are. I think that's another thing, too, if you like.
I don't know jack about
Cab and Malbec are close with a Bordeaux in between, yes.
But so a Bordeaux is usually a blend of Cab and Merlot.
It says Bordeaux blend, actually.
Is a Bordeaux always a blend?
Okay, so I'm showing Brian the chart. So
I'm going to say yes, based on my knowledge, which...
It's always a blend? The Bordeaux?
Oh.
Yeah, there's no Bordeaux isn't a grape, it's a region.
Oh, okay. So I, in my brain, think, I like...
Well, it's definitely a region in France because,
now you guys have me questioning everything I've ever known or learned.
I totally know it is a region in France because they just went through there
Open the book.
a few days ago during the Tour de France.
Let me open the book while you're doing this, and I'm going to give you a synopsis here.
Okay, who is the author of that?
Wait.
I just saw a picture.
This is... lightest.
That's what I said. Lightest, which is
lightest.
the Pinot Noir.
Oh, you're right. Okay, sorry.
So, anyway, so it was just a kind of an interesting because when I saw that Cab was the heaviest of those 5, I was like, well, that can't be right because I don't like heavy red wines, but apparently I do. So, Kelly. Kelly, who wrote that book? Was it a man or a woman?
No,
A
it's
woman,
lady.
Elizabeth Schneider.
A lady. So she's my new hero. And she was like, honey, I'm going to write a book about wines. I'm going to be blasted for the next 18 months while I do research for these. I'm going to need to travel all over the world and try things, try different wines. Right?
Sure.
It sounds like a pretty good gig.
That'd be amazing.
Unlike some people who's like, I'm gonna start a podcast with like 4 listeners. Like you really missed an opportunity.
She beat me to the punch. I didn't have a chance.
I know. That's true.
And then I would have gotten it all wrong.
Clear, but you would have learned. You're actually a very good learner. You pick up information and retain it very well.
Yes, we could do a whole nother podcast on Bordeaux and like just read the chapter in the book on Bordeaux because Bordeaux can be really intimidating for people, and me included. And my husband and I talk about this quite a bit because we'd love to go to France and like do a wine tour in France, but we still don't feel comfortable with our level of knowledge to know what we're doing. It's like, very complicated.
Okay, Brian, spell Bordeaux.
Bordeux.
Okay, that's how I would have spelled it. Is that right?
Perfect.
Yes! Cheers.
French class, baby.
All right. So is that our only trivia question? Because it was so hard.
Yeah, and I knew there was going to be some discussion, and I knew that basically it was going to be your question, Kelly.
Oh, and I still got it wrong.
Since I basically flipped that thing.
It's all right. It's good. See, we learned something new today.
What a debacle.
I know.
Well, I know what I'm getting you guys for Christmas this year, which is going to be
Do you
a
like
copy
white
of
wines,
this
Kel,
book.
or red's your favorite?
I like all wines.
Okay.
I like white, rosé, and red.
I definitely heavily prefer red, but I will say I found some whites in France when I went with Jim that I would drink.
Sancerre is breakfast wine.
Sancerre.
And we will talk about that at a different time.
Okay.
Oh. I usually have cafe latte. Or no. Cafe au lait.
Unrelated, my Be Real just came up. We're going to do it so Kelly's going to be on that side, and you and I are going to be here. And if you don't know what Be Real is, don't bother, because it's kind of stupid. And actually, there's a really good, was it Saturday Night Live skit where the bank was getting robbed and they all had to do their Be Real, like, in the moment.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I sent that to you. That was
yes, and I've only got legitimately 4 followers on that, so.
Oh,
yeah, so
pretty good.
Yeah.
It's really taken off.
I know! I used to be just Jen.
We'll see if the podcast can chase it down.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, Kelly, is there anything else before we switch to Off the Beaten Path? Because there's 3 of us, so it takes a few extra.
I know. I don't think so. I'm glad you guys indulged me in trying this Barbera, and
I like it.
I am kind of competitive, so I feel like I won, and I'm excited about that.
Okay, I'm not going to argue that because I'm like, I like my
it.
cab. Where's my box wine? But that's all right.
No, yeah.
Molly's just excited she gets to take the rest of probably both bottles home.
Yeah, I think Miles is double excited that I like this one better because now I'm...
Yeah, exactly. I'm
bottle,
drinking the
and she's
rest of
like,
the gentleman's collection. So.
I love it.
Okay, so for Off the Beaten Path, Brian, you're as our guest today. You're going to go first.
Okay, so I was trying to think of what could I come up with that sort of ties in you two, but would be interesting. And so this is what I
know. I'm like, where's he going with this?
And so this is what I decided on. When Kel was on for episode 5, for my Off the Beaten Path, I did a graphic novel.
Okay, let me ask you, did you remember that or have to look it up?
No,
Of course you remembered it. He was on bus 17.
That's what I'm asking. Like, did you legitimately remember that was Off Your Beaten Path?
Yeah, when Kel was on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I don't remember what mine was Off the Beaten Path. What
Really?
was mine?
let me see. When you were on,
I do.
Mine was the Spanish, like not trilogy, but like Shadow of the Wind, and
those
books, and then yours were like the
old time radio shows, right?
Not old time radio shows, but the
serials.
The serials you used to watch with your dad.
But like, I am impressed that you remember that on this episode that was your Off the Beaten Path, like because you've done like 12 now.
Well, this is 16.
You've done like 15. Okay, so keep going. I totally
you're fine. So Kel's was the first graphic novel that we had done, and then I was like, oh, well, what's a graphic novel that I could maybe do? But then I was like, I know, because you have read some of it, so it sort of ties.
I know what it is.
Yes.
Okay.
So I and so this would be more for, which is probably everyone listening to this who's not a huge graphic novel, but it is a series called Saga, and it is great, and it is still ongoing. The high level overview is
just a good background sound.
Yeah. Molly pouring the wine. Keep going. Saga.
The background story would be there's a war between two different races in space in these different planets, but a member of each race meet, fall in love, and have a kid.
Romeo and Juliet, except they don't kill themselves, they have a kid instead.
And so everyone freaks out because there's no way there should be this hybrid existing, because it means that those two races could get along. Mm-hmm. So like bounty hunters are called in to try and like hunt this family down. They're trying to get away from everybody.
Based on the graphics, they get along.
Oh yeah, this is
There's
not
some spicy.
This is
not for kids.
Yeah, this is not for kids. This is a
spicy graphic novel.
There's naughty bits. There's definitely some violence. There is a lot of humor. There is amazing storytelling. I would say if you like Star Wars, you would like this. If you like Romeo and Juliet, you would like this.
And it's called Saga?
It's called Saga. Mm-hmm. They took a break for about a year and a half. There's like two main people who are writing this. They have come back, and they are now in the process of working to finish it.
It is really good. I vouch for that.
Yes, and so I would just say if you want to dabble, and the reason I was really hesitant to offer this one is because it has won a number of awards, like in the graphic novel community. Like, it is very well known. This is a big thing.
But it's off Kelly's beaten path.
This is so far off of Kelly's beaten path yes.
But it's also like, but it's completely different. Like the one that you and I had talked about, Once a Time in France, that was like a true story that was amazing. It was like the biggest dilemma.
I still haven't.
No one's going to just like go grab it. It's called Once Upon a Time in France. But this is one that you can just like dabble in, and you can like grab a couple episodes. They have like compendiums that have a bunch, and then they have like collections. And if you get like collection 1 and 2, just check it out, but also do not let your kids read it. It is very adult-oriented.
I just looked it up on Goodreads, because that's what I use to like keep track of what I want to read. And well, first of all, when I searched it, the first thing that came up was the Twilight series. So that shows you what they're promoting to me. But then I can see it, and even the cover on this graphic novel, you can tell kind of exactly what you said. Like, it's very
it is very good, and also like it's a very quick read too, because it is a graphic novel, and so like, you know, you have 6 panes on each page and a few sentences on each pane, or not at all, and then you kind of just keep going. So like,
I have never read a graphic novel.
Well, Brian has all of them, so he can loan you them.
I will.
I think I've gotten them back, yeah, because I loaned them. Well, you did, but then I gave them a drag, but I think I've got them back. So, but it is, anyhow, that would be my selection for this episode for Off the Beaten Path Saga.
I like it.
I highly recommend it.
That is a good one. Okay. Do you want to go first, Kyle? Second, I mean? Or do you want me to go?
I can go.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
So my Off the Beaten Path is a podcast, and it's not the podcast I talked to Molly about.
Oh, there is a podcast.
Is it the podcast Off the Book?
No.
Oh, okay.
But wow, if I was smarter, I would have made those connections. That's right. But I did promote it in, earlier.
Is it only have like 15 episodes and a guy who's bored who's just started a podcast because he likes to drink with his friends? I've heard that one.
It's amazing.
I heard that they're like
they've doubled
their followers.
Oh, they're at least up to 6.
At least doubled.
And we also have a listener, a consistent listener now overseas in Denmark. Hey,
what?
Jake.
Jake? Oh.
Dave's brother.
Oh, that's why it's in Denmark.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, I'm really curious to see what the listener count will be for this episode, and also the abandon rate.
Yes.
At what point do they get bored? Because I feel like we're on track for like a 2-hour episode.
No, we're wrapping it up. It's good. We're good.
No,
but I do
fine.
think the abandon rate is a thing to be concerned about. So we'll see how it goes. Okay.
I
didn't know
so I'll be quick.
I don't look at that.
Because I don't care. All I need is who clicked on the link.
Exactly.
So mine is a podcast called Blind Plea, and it's produced by Lemonada Media, and it's like a story about, and it's a true story, but it's also a bit of a social justice piece. And it's about a young woman named Devin Gray, who was a black woman that killed her white boyfriend in like rural.
Yeah, I don't like that
Rural.
word. Rural.
Rural.
Okay, rural. And
Rural.
Yeah. Was the guy's name Rory?
No.
Because I don't like that word either.
No, it was Rowan.
Rowan.
Okay.
It's easier to say than Rory.
In backwoods Alabama.
Okay.
In self-defense because it was a big domestic violence
Oh.
situation, et cetera, et cetera. And so what's really fascinating about the story is that it's a very sad story, but it also calls to light some of the injustices in our world, but also in the criminal justice system. And so it does a good job of not only telling the story, but kind of a call to action at the end on what you can do in your personal life to slowly make change in that space of domestic violence and that kind of thing. So it was
called Silent Plea?
Blind plea, which on its own was really interesting because the whole thing is that you plead guilty to a crime without knowing what the punishment will be. And so that was a big thing in this case, is that she never
like a
denied
plea deal where
that
they worked out like what it was like if you.
Usually when you do a plea deal, you know what you're signing up for. This one, which is a new term that is very rare, it sounds like, is blind plea. And so you plead to a crime without knowing what your sentence is going to be. And so that on its own was like a really fascinating part of this case. But it just the whole thing, because it tells it from her perspective and then the victim, or whether you call him a victim or not, but the deceased family's side of the story. And it's just, it's entertaining because it's complicated, but it's also like very enlightening from like a social justice standpoint. And then now you all have to say the rural word. How do you say that? Rural.
What did you say?
Rural?
Country.
Rural.
No, say it again, Brian.
Rural.
Yeah.
Rural.
You know everyone listening is going rural.
They're saying
it's
rhubarb.
Rural.
Rhubarb.
That is a really tricky word.
I know, I don't like it. Rural and Rory. I don't like all the R's together.
Anyhow, so that's my
Okay, I added it to my list. I have been listening to a lot of audiobooks this year, like as I'm driving, and so I added it to the list. Thank you. Okay, so mine, and I will admit I was a little ill-prepared because of time constraints on them.
Because you're busy reading that label?
I was reading the label, I know, and Kelly's all, I brought my book. Okay, but even off the beaten path, I almost said eaten path, which I do love, like restaurants and stuff, but it's okay.
Have you listened to Greg's episode yet?
That would be a really good
I'm behind.
Okay.
I'm behind on Jack's, Greg, and
that's okay. I would just...
Okay, so...
are restaurants an option for Off the Beaten Path?
Yeah.
Sure.
I didn't know that.
Well, no one's tried it yet.
You would have been a good restaurant person. Okay, so mine is a movie, and I thought of it during this, and it's because I started smelling, I think Kelly almost spit her wine out. I was smelling the one that Kelly brought, which is the Barbera, and I thought, I wish I had a really long nose. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Oh, yes.
So the one is Roxanne, and it's got Steve Martin and Daryl Hannah, and it's like a modern day version of Cyrano de Bergerac, which is starred Gerard Depardieu, who's French.
What did you just say?
I was trying to be sophisticated.
It was really good. I didn't even follow it. Say it again.
Wait, have you not seen that movie?
Okay.
With Steve Martin?
So the name of the movie is Roxanne.
Yes.
Roxanne.
Okay, that I heard, but then you inserted some French after that.
I know. So there's a movie, the OG, is called Cyrano de Bergerac, and it's a big French movie. And basically it's about this guy, and he's got a huge nose, and he's like, no one's going to love him because he has this huge nose, which isn't true. He's just self-conscious about it. So he likes this girl, and then, this other guy also likes a girl but can't speak. He's just a big, beautiful, dumb buffoon. And so Cyrano de Bergerac, which you've seen this in many ways, such as, I think, 10 Things I Hate About You, is like the modern. No, that's a different one. But anyway, it's like basically he is giving romantical sonnets and language and whispering.
Isn't it a Shakespeare play originally?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe, I don't know. And so I took the range there, I don't know. And so he ended up whispering to the guy who's talking to the girl from afar, and he's like, say this, and but really it's his own words. I'm I'm probably not describing this well. So
You are.
Okay, thank you. So the modern version is Steve Martin, and he's got a comically large nose. Like, it's out to, like, here. It's like a joke, right? But he was born with it, and that's what it is. And he ends up, like, falling in love with Daryl Hannah, but she likes this buff firefighter, and the firefighter is, like, saying all these romantic things to her, but Steve Martin is, like, whispering these things, like, say this, say that, and so it makes him look really good, the firefighter. And then she discovers when she's talking to the firefighter, he's not as intelligent as what he presented. So anyway, it's a really good one, and one of the reasons I thought of it was because at one point in the movie, he can't drink his wine because his nose is in the way, so he ends up just putting his whole nose in the thing and snorting it up his nose, which sounds terrible. But that was what reminded me of it, and it's a great movie.
It is good. And it was originally played, just not Shakespeare, but it was originally a play. So
it wasn't Shakespeare, is what you said.
It was not Shakespeare.
Okay, but it was a play.
But it was
right?
a play originally,
Cyrano
and
de
then it's
Bergerac,
been made into a couple different
movies. Which I've
movies.
seen the classic, because my parents used to take me to, like, some of those classic movies. So it's a remake.
Did they go make you work at a theater then for a while?
So you are so classy.
It was a good movie, so the remake is really good of Roxanne.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Steve Martin is, like, the fire chief, and the young hot guy is, like, on his staff, and she's, like, new to town or something. So it's a really good one. It was old, though. It was before, like, cell phones, so, you know, they don't have all that to be, like, chatting and texting and calling and romantical. Like, it has to be done from the bushes, I guess.
And from the heart.
Oh, yeah, from the heart. And the bushes.
You can't go ask ChatGPT to help you seduce somebody.
Are we going to go down that path again like we did? We went down. Did we do that in our
We did, yeah.
Scary. So ChatGPT. So that's my off the beaten path, and I'm sorry if I didn't explain it well.
No, that's a good one. I knew it. That's good. Yeah, that's a good one.
And also Cyrano de Bergerac, but if you don't speak
But Steve
French,
Martin's
Kelly,
always good.
Oh, yeah. Then you're going to have to watch it with the subtitles.
I feel like
You mean the original? The original.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the original. Yeah.
Not the one with
the original
Steve Martin.
movie.
Yeah.
The French version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a very hard time with movies with subtitles. I don't know why. I mean, I can read.
Can you?
Just
well,
to
you've
be
been
clear.
reading a book about
I've been
wine.
reading this book about wine, but it's too hard for me to focus on reading and then what's happening, and then my ear is listening
and
to
then
the
you
words.
have a podcast, and you have, like, all
Right, and I'm trying to surf the internet on my phone, and it's just too much all at one time.
So real quick, the series on Apple that I mentioned before we had started that I thought you would like, that incorporates
It has
wine.
subtitles.
It does, because it's a mixture of French, Japanese, and English, but there are subtitles.
The whole time, or just part of the time?
Well, they bop around.
What was the name of that one?
So
It's called Drops of God.
Oh, that was the one that we were talking
the
about.
series
Okay.
that I had mentioned to you guys. It's on Apple TV. For
So there's a
wine
little
lovers, I
reading.
think but you'll it's worth it. Just put your phone down.
Grab a Barbera.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be
start
even
the
worse
thing.
when you
I know.
can't read the words because
Yeah.
they start moving across
yeah,
the
you can.
screen.
You'll be fine. But since, the French don't understand the Japanese when they're together, English is their default. So, at least a third is in English.
Okay, maybe I'll give it a try.
You'll like it.
Just give it a try.
All right.
And maybe send us a text later, because I might not remember it.
You'll remember it.
Okay. All right.
Sum it up. So, Bri, as our guest
Yes.
on this wonderful podcast about wine, how'd we do?
You guys did great. And what I'm afraid of is everyone's going to be clamoring for you two to take over. But what we can do is, if you ever wanted to spin off your own little series,
Because Kelly and I have so much time.
you could do it once
This
a month.
is what
or
we
once
would
every
do.
other
We
month.
would buy a microphone, and then Kelly and I would both come unprepared, and we would finish off a bottle of wine and just laugh, and people would be like...
And then
"What
all of a
was
sudden
that?"
it would be like that Mom So Hard podcast. Where
I
it'd
love
be
that.
hilarious,
That's true.
and we would have a really good time.
That is true. I do love that podcast.
So I actually think we spun around where it's not even going to be. We'll drink wine, but we'll talk about other stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
No, that's good, too.
No, that's good. No, I think it was great. My fear is now everyone's going to be like, I want to bring a friend on, or whatever.
I don't know.
but
Do we get listener feedback?
Ooh.
I have...
you get, rating,
actually-
thumbs ups.
I definitely, through text, do receive compliments on episodes and stuff. And when those come in, I let people know, I sent you...
Okay.
You did, and that was
yes,
very nice.
yes.
And
So-
I am also wondering if anyone would provide critical feedback.
No.
Probably not.
Thus far, no.
Because-
no, that's not
because
true.
We don't need critical feedback.
No, your son, Cash, said he's getting better.
Oh, okay, so that
yes.
is true. So I listened. I just went. I was told you I was a few episodes behind.
yeah.
I drove to Kansas recently, and my kids are all on their devices or watching a movie and not paying attention. I was like, well, I'm gonna listen to this, and I'm not putting in my earphones. I'm gonna just listen to it. And probably 45 minutes into it, Cash goes, wow, Mom, Brian's gotten a whole lot better since the first episode we listened to, and he's only listened to like my episode, I think, and then or part of mine, and then yours. He goes, he's gotten a lot better. He goes, he doesn't say as much. I was like,
yeah, I do say that a lot.
No,
That's amazing.
Good. I know. So he did get some good feedback.
What do you think is the biggest thing you've learned from this 15? You've only done 15. This episode doesn't count because
no, this totally counts. But I didn't have to prep for it. I mean,
true.
It counts, but I didn't have to prep, so I got to be the guest.
What did you learn from this process?
Of doing it?
Yeah.
Like, honestly,
like who's your real friends?
Molly is leading the witness.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, what I have found is one of the things I found that I really enjoy is, had I not been doing this podcast, not that I wouldn't enjoy the gins, but sometimes there's like really interesting stories about the gin or like the distillery that comes up that I would never have known had I not been doing this. And I always like a good story. I think it's why I love books and I love movies, and like occasionally, like through doing this, I get to stumble on something that I find like really interesting and I get sort of excited to share about it. So like that's really good. And yeah, so it's that, and the podcast itself is like exactly sort of what I wanted it to be. It's like gin's really just an excuse for me to hang out with my friends and like have fun, and so it's been good.
But and other people get a glimpse into that world, which is fun.
I think it's been fun. So
awesome. Well, thank you for letting us take over.
You bet. And again, the name of your
Toe Squished Grapes, patent pending.
Sounds great.
Yes.
I love it.
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
All right.
Sounds great.
Well, not Kelly and I, but Brian, we'll see you next time. And thank you so much for joining us today, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
A great rest of your day.
Rest of your
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. Feel free to subscribe to us on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts. Also, I want to take a quick minute to thank Darin VanderMolen for all of his help behind the scenes. Without him, this podcast probably wouldn't even exist, and his help is greatly appreciated. Hope you have a great week, and we will look forward to seeing you the next time we go down the botanical trails. This has been a Shits and Giggles production.